Today on Board Game Coffee, we are going to unveil the newest Tiny Epic game. What could it be? Who knows? Actually, we know. And here to tell us is Sam. Sam.
Hello.
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, my name is Sam Aho. I am the Customer Engagement Director for Gamelyn Games. Basically, what that encompasses is we're a small company, so we all do a lot, but I run our social media, I oversee all of our customer service, and I'm also very heavily involved in our game development. And yeah, that's the basics.
That's pretty good. You sound like a busy guy, Sam.
I am a busy guy.
So
Speaking of which, I think I gotta go. I know that you wanted to talk about Tiny Epic, but I just have too much to do.
I appreciate that you leave after our 1 hour warm up conversation. Did I tell you I got to be somewhere? I got places to be.
When it comes to the real interview.
Okay. All right. So, Sam, you're a guy that plays a lot of Tiny Epic games.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And which is your favorite? Before we get started, what's your favorite?
Oh, don't make me choose a favorite. My favorite Tiny Epic is always the newest Tiny Epic.
All right, and now speaking of the newest, we have some announcements to make. What could this newest one be? So Sam is here to tell us what it is. But let's give you a little sneaky peek of the box art, shall we?
Oh, let's take a look.
Oh, look at this.
Ooh.
What could it be? Could it be Tiny Epic Wizards? Tiny Epic Redbeards? Tiny Epic Cleavage and Abs? What could it be? It could be anything. There's so many things in that image. Sam, do you want to tell us what it is?
The newest Tiny Epic game is Tiny Epic Dungeons.
Oh, snap.
Damn.
Snap, Tiny Epic Dungeons. Oh.
People have been asking for this for years.
These are exciting times. These are exciting times. I want to see that box art one more time. I like it. There's so much going on. So much going on. I dig it.
It's a new, fresh kind of look at our box art because it kind of strays from what we've always done with the logo being centered right in the middle of the box. We kind of played it up a little bit fresh this time. Dungeons is something that people have been asking for, people really want, and we're giving them a fresh new look at Tiny Epic.
We all like dungeons, but just the title movement isn't the only change you've made. There's one change in particular that I want to get to, but not yet. We're going to save that little tidbit till a little later.
You're a hook for
a little later. So while I sit here and sip my water, Sam, what's in this water? Tell us a bit about Tiny Epic Dungeons, its theme, mechanics, just what can we expect?
Yeah, so Tiny Epic Dungeons is meant to immerse you into the world of Ogmore, into the deepest, darkest regions of the deepest, darkest dungeons. So we have gone through and given you a classic dungeon crawler in a Tiny Epic format. Every game you're going to be building out a unique dungeon. You're going to be taking on heroes that have special abilities, and you're going to be facing goblins and minions and monsters, searching the dungeon for new loot, trying to create really awesome sets of loot that when you combine them together have extremely powerful abilities. And you face off taking down minions, building out the dungeon, searching for the dungeon boss's lair. And then when you find it, you need to take out the dungeon boss. But you only have a limited amount of time. Your torchlight goes down every single turn. And if you can't find the dungeon boss or defeat the dungeon boss in time, the torch goes out and you're lost forever.
It's harsh. But that sounds...
You just gotta get your stuff in time.
That sounds exciting. That sounds exciting. And so you said one thing there that because that really got me excited, which is you got set bonuses, right? Like
Yes.
you'll have like armor sets, right? I'm assuming kind of like RPGs and things like that. So if you get the entire set, you'll get like a buff to your whatever. Can you give us an
Yes,
example of
exactly.
what kind of stuff? Can you give us even a vague
Yeah.
example?
So so I'll talk about some of the sets we have in the base game. One of my personal favorite sets is the set of the bear. So the bear set has the most powerful melee weapon in the game of the Great Axe of the Bear, which gives you bonus to your melee attacks. You have the throwing axe of the bear, which allows you to make a melee attack, but using your strength when typically you use agility to make your melee attack. It has the studded jerkin of the bear, which gives you defense on melee attacks. And it has the war horn of the bear, which allows you to manipulate enemies and how and where they move by using the special ability on the Warhorn. And the set bonus is that after you have two of the set, every single one thereafter is going to increase the damage on your melee attacks. So if you get all four items of the bear, you are going to hit like a truck.
Nice, nice. I'm a fan of the set collecting thing. You know, from a guy who played World of Warcraft for 10 years, and you know, like right now I'm playing Assassin's Creed Valhalla, trying to collect all the Raven sets, so I to get all those buffs. I love that idea, and the fact that you brought it to a tiny epic game. I'm digging it. I'm digging it, Sam. I'm digging it. So, exploration.
Yes.
What are we looking at? Like we got like a set map, some tiles. What's
Yeah.
happening?
So one of my favorite things about this game is that I love dungeon crawlers. Just me personally, for my own gaming preferences, I love playing dungeon crawlers. There's a dungeon crawler on my table right now, Alter Quest by the great Sadler Brothers and Blacklist Games. But personally, I love that. But one of my biggest issues with dungeon crawlers is that they take a long time,
Mm.
not just to play a lot, but to set up.
Mm-hmm.
I Descent is something that I have poured hundreds of hours into. But if I want to play Descent, I pull out like 16 boxes and, it's a whole thing. So for Tiny Epic Dungeons, setup takes place and you can be playing in like 4 minutes, seriously, or less.
Nice.
To seed the dungeon, you have the dungeon boss's lair, and you're going to shuffle that in with three normal cards, and that's going to be the bottom of the dungeon deck. Then you're going to take one minion per player and three dungeon cards per player and shuffle all of those together to make the middle of the deck. And then you put a number of cards on top of that deck according to the number of players. And that's it. That's your dungeon deck setup. And how you explore and build the dungeon is every opening. So you're going to start in an entrance. It's going to have four openings. When you explore a room, you're going to flip it over so you don't know what you're moving into unless you use the torchlight, which is like a double-edged sword because it helps you reveal things, which could mean that you don't take damage from goblins or minions, which could really sap your health. And so that could help you that way, but you have to spend the torch, which is your time. So you're giving up your time to be able to see further. So it's a really cool play on that, but you are exploring the dungeon. So the dungeon is built randomly every single game, depending on how you explore it. And because certain rooms are going to have multiple openings, how you choose to rotate that room when it gets placed could very well determine whether you are building a long pathway down somewhere or you open it up and you just have a bunch of big corridors that are all connecting. But it makes it unique every single time.
Nice. I like that idea of using the torch to like sacrificing time to look into a room safely. That's that's a neat little that's a neat little mechanic. I'm digging that. So are we
Because the
gonna?
dungeon dangerous. The dungeon is filled with traps. The dungeon's filled with goblins and minions, and it's not super easy to heal. You have to take an entire turn
Mm,
moving the torch down to heal and rest. So you want to take as little damage as possible. So exploring without the torch is a bit dangerous.
My next question was about monsters, and you answered that ahead of me. We're like connected. We're psychic. You must have the psychic set on. You have the psychic Gamelyn shirt on, and psychic underwear, and psychic socks. Anyways, you've told us a lot, but there's one thing. There is one thing you haven't told us, and this is what blew me away the most. Do you know what I'm talking? Could you tell the people? Tell the people what I'm talking about.
Tiny Epic Dungeons will be the first Tiny Epic with miniatures.
Crazy, right? That's crazy. What the hell? You guys, what? That's like awesome. And you still got the same Tiny Epic like little box thing going.
Tiny Epic box, but we're going to give you character miniatures.
So what
for your playable characters in Tiny Epic Dungeons?
If you've seen the show, Sam, you might have noticed that I'm a fan of the miniatures, right?
What?
Yeah,
you like minis?
I do.
I don't know. I've only seen like 3 of your 4-hour unboxing videos. Where you Google enough.
Like I'm still watching them. I turned it on a week ago. But
you put me to sleep, Mark. I put it on as I'm going to bed, and I hear you talk about the minis. I don't even need to see them.
It's comforting. So
and the video's on when I wake up in the morning.
All right. So here's the thing. Let's get off of me. We're talking about Tiny Epic Dungeons. We got minis, and the minis look fantastic. These look great. Like you guys didn't fool around. Like you guys aren't like you went at it hard. Now here's the thing.
We worked very hard to make them good quality, highly detailed miniatures.
What happened to item meeples? Why the switch? Why the change from item meeples? Item meeples were going strong, right? Everybody liked snapping the little things in there, snapping the little shotguns, etc.
So there was actually a big discussion about that. And originally, item meeples were planned for Tiny Epic Dungeons. Our initial thought was to include item meeples. And as we went through the design and development of Tiny Epic Dungeons, we were looking at it and we said, we want to make sure that as we are growing and maturing the Tiny Epic line, that if we're going to include item meeples, we want them to serve a real purpose in the game. In Tiny Epic Quest, item meeples were extremely important because you had 3 guys on your team, and where all those items were unique and gave unique abilities, you needed to know where your meeple was that had the ability to take out a goblin from adjacent spaces, right? And so it served a very important purpose. And as we developed Tiny Epic Dungeons, we realized that the way that we were moving with the development, item meeples weren't necessarily serving the game quite as well as they could have. I mean, don't get me wrong, they were awesome. We loved using the item meeples, but then we thought, okay, they aren't serving as much of a purpose as we wanted them to. We wanted them to be a bigger deal within the game. And so ultimately we decided, let's go away from that. And we're always looking for ways to innovate. We haven't done minis. What is a better game to introduce miniatures into the Tiny Epic series than Tiny Epic Dungeons?
I agree. You've sold me. Like I was a fan of the item meeples, but listening to you talk about miniatures sold me. Well, you saying there was miniatures sold me, but now it's gospel. So that's fantastic. I hope everybody else out there is as excited as me. I can't wait to see these minis, like actually hold them in my hand and cuddle up to them on my pillow and fall asleep with them like the other minis I do, because I don't know what you think my bedroom looks like, but it's minis on my pillows.
Do you have the giant Cthulhu Mon? Is that your cuddle toy?
Yeah, that's what I wrap my arm around. You get a wing in the eye in the morning. It's dangerous. So you have other co-op games in your Tiny Epic lineup. What separates this one from the other ones? Why would, like, let's say a couple like me and Brittany, why would we come to this one and not the other ones? Or I guess we should do them all, really. But what separates this one?
Yeah, so Tiny Epic Dungeons provides a totally different feel than any other Tiny Epic that we've had. It's really cool because the game feels very unique in two different parts. So the first part of the game is you are building out your dungeon. There's an exploration feel that we quite honestly have not had in a Tiny Epic prior to now, where you are building the board as you go. All of our previous games have had built boards, at the beginning of the game, and so there's not as much newly revealed information about the board state or where to go throughout the game. Whereas this is you're starting literally on a single square, a single card. Um, I had it right here. You start on this card. You have one single card that you are starting on, and then you go from there. And so you are building out. So there's a sense of exploration, but also a sense of excitement where, in Zombies and in Quest, you are finding these new items, but those items are fairly sparse. You don't find them all the time. Tiny Epic Dungeons is loot galore. You are
Ooh.
always searching for new items and new things, and more items that are
Nice.
all unique, that all do unique things. And if you start collecting a set, then it's like, oh my goodness, I've got one piece of the bear set. I need to get the other pieces of the bear set. And like, oh no, why'd you get my piece of the bear set? You need to drop that so I can pick it up. And exploring and then dealing with more of the tactical situations. Zombies had a bit of the tactical aspects to it as you're moving around the mall. Tiny Epic Dungeons really accentuates that, and takes it through, and it's so fun because you get the exploration, you get the loot discovery and increasing your character's abilities and stats, as well as the tactical combat of fighting together against monsters and who's going to be best suited against which monster, and can we get him to this spot so we can get this attack with that attack combined to be able to take them down. And I'll stop talking now because I've been raving like a lunatic for the last
No, that's
3 minutes.
this. You know what? You kind of got the my Diablo itch going. That loot, the like just collecting loot. That's why I play Diablo. I just want to collect loot, right? And
Oh, I love collecting loot. Finding new stuff is the best.
yeah, so I'm excited to hear that there's a lot, which brings me up to my next question, which is how much variety can we expect? You mentioned earlier, you said the base game. Can we expect an expansion? What? I heard you said you said it.
Yes. So we will have an expansion releasing at the same time on Kickstarter. So you will have an opportunity to get that. Where this is coming out right as we're announcing, I'm not going to talk too much
All right.
about that.
All right.
But yes, there is additional content that I shared with you secretly a little
Yeah.
bit of it. But
Yeah.
for now, people will have to wait a little bit. But yes, we will have more content, and people can kind of just guess what could that extra content be that comes with the base game of Tiny Epic Dungeons.
Is it a
And we'll let
sandwich?
the comments go wild.
Is it a sandwich?
Could be.
Everybody gets a bacon melt. Well, you were telling me a story about eating a cheesy sandwich and getting that stuck in your mustache. I figured you were playtesting.
Exactly. Yes.
Um, all right. Okay. So I like it.
Your
I like.
mustache is now gone, so you can read into that what you will. Couldn't get the
Okay.
cheese. I had to say that.
So, one last question I got for you is, what did you, when developing Tiny Epic Dungeons, did you have like inspiration from some? Did you draw inspiration from either other board games or video games? Because I'm a game designer myself, but in the video game realm, and I know myself, I pull from inspiration from a lot of other things I like. I want to bring it together in another form. It's not the same thing. It's just inspiration. It's like, did you have any
Absolutely.
inspiration?
Yeah, I mean, at Gamelyn Games, we're all very inspired by multiple things. I think we actually have a really good development team in that Michael, the CEO of Gamelyn Games, grew up primarily a video gamer and has gotten into board games. And so he takes an eye at board games from a video game background. And for me, I've always been into board games and I dabble in video games and I enjoy playing video games every now and then, but I approach it much from a board game perspective. And having played a lot of things, there's so much ingenuity out in the board game world and the video game world. And we can kind of pull inspiration from lots of different aspects. People will take people will understand the way that you build the dungeon out similar to something like Betrayal at House on the Hill. Is similar to how you build out the house there. You're building out the dungeon here. And then just looking at overall dungeon crawls in general, looking at gaining that loot and having the tactical combat, but also from video games, building out the stats of your character and being able to adjust, the dice that you roll or your pluses to those, getting those set bonuses. A lot of that is pulled from those, RPG video games and also from board games. So there's a ton of inspiration that goes into every single one of our games. But yes, we did pull a lot of looking at what can we mash up together to make this the best game possible.
All right. Well, just listening to you speak, I started getting visions of all the other like dungeon set collecting games, video games that I played. So I'm in. I like when I'm a fan of when board games, I guess, kind of make me think of video games, but I don't want to be playing the video game. I want to be playing the board game. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so when can we expect to see this on Kickstarter?
So in about a week is what we're targeting. Yes, it'll be launching on Tuesday.
Oh, that's soon. That is soon.
Yeah.
So if you're watching this video, you gotta set an alarm, put it in your calendar. You don't want to miss out on Tiny Epic Dungeons. And let's look at it one more time. Look at that. You don't want to miss out on that.
Ooh.
You don't want to miss out on that.
And I'm sure you can throw in a link to the Kickstarter page or the notification page in the description of the video and all that jazz.
We definitely will. You want to see and you want to know how to get to Tiny Epic Dungeons, get your own copy, and put the link down there. And just click it. Just click it. Do there. Throw your money at these guys because we want them to make this game happen. And that is it. So yes, if you're interested in the Kickstarter, check out the link below and go get yourself some Tiny Epic Dungeon action. And that is all. And I am going to leave you with this. There you go.
Well, thanks for having me on, Mark. Everybody go check out Tiny Epic Dungeons.
Yes.
We can't wait to bring this game to all of you.
All right. See you, everybody. Thanks for joining us. If you like this video and you want to see more, subscribe to our channel. It's the best way to keep up to date with everything we do here at Board Game Coffee. But if you want to see more right now, we got plenty of videos to choose from. And if that's not enough, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm Mark Maya, and this is Board Game Coffee. And remember, have fun, keep gaming, be social. See you next week.